Hello, here we are again on another walk, another talk. A bit later, starting out today, a bit later than normal. That's because got to chat about my nutrition and dietary needs with a dietitian. It's all good, everything going well on that front, so that's nice. So, topic of the day, what to talk about. This is a struggle, to be honest with you, because I've not really thought of anything or prepared anything. I've literally sort of just grabbed my camera and come out for a walk, because I was thinking more about my appointment than I was anything. And could do with some suggestions for some topics, I suppose, if it's anything that I know anything about. We'll try and get round today without falling over any branches. That's always a good start, I think. But in any event, why I think be something worth chatting about. It's like, from an individual perspective, what your favourite games console has been. Mine's easy. It was the original PlayStation. And that doesn't mean to say that I didn't think the others were great. But there's a good reason why I love the original PlayStation. I spoke about the whole thing of falling out of love with gaming in the early 90s. I was just getting bored with it. There were so many games were just repetitive. They were like continuously releasing platform games, which I like. I like platform games, but it's like lack of variety. It was just platform games and beat 'em ups, platform games and beat 'em ups. And right at the very end, like with the 32X, I was saying about Doom, and they started to go down that 3D route, but the hardware really wasn't built for that, and it struggled. And as I said in the previous video, with the retro one, I was a Sega fanboy, so I was all over getting the Saturn when it come out. That was going to be my de facto console of choice. But then I heard that Sony were releasing a PlayStation. I thought, Sony don't make games consoles, they make TVs and hi-fis and, back then, VCRs. What are they getting into the games marketplace for? It's going to be rubbish, this. But then I saw a demo pod running Ridge Racer and Wipeout, and I was blown away by what I saw. And it was then I thought, oh, hang on a minute, this looks good. I'd seen Daytona running on the Saturn, but and that looked great. But there was just something about those games, and I think it was probably the soundtrack as much as anything that sort of caught my attention. But we'll carry on with this when we get to the park. So I'll catch you later. I'll throw you all off again, starting at a completely different point this time, as I drag my feet along the floor, just as you're not supposed to do. So yeah, let's go down here. Keep my camera away from people. So yeah, you get like the PlayStation or the Saturn. That was kind of my choice, as it were. And I really was struggling with that choice. You know, I was like, oh, I love Sega, I love the games. But this PlayStation stuff looks really good. There was other games as well. There was one called Crazy Ivan. And there was another one where it was like you were like a one-man army type game. I want to call it was Mercenary, but I'm not too sure. Magpie? Because I'm not too sure though whether it was called Mercenary or whether it was something else. I don't know. I think, anyway, it was cheesy as all hell, but it was fun. It's getting quite cold and my nose is running, so you'll have to forgive me a bit. What the hell was it called now? I'm trying to think. Let me just get past the yapping dogs. I'll have to look it up at some point. Yeah, anyway, it was really cheesy, but it was really fun. It was a lot of fun. And then it was Wipeout, Ridge Racer, Loaded. And funnily, I didn't see Doom until I got it. But that Christmas, I had a choice. And I really laboured over it. I was like, oh, do I want the Saturn? And the problem was, back then there was no internet. Well, there was, but I mean, it wasn't like it is today. So I bought a load of magazines. Of course, you get the Sega magazines, and they're like, the Saturn is the future. I'm like, well, yeah, okay. You get PlayStation magazine. It's like, the PlayStation is the future. Great. Okay. But a lot of the independent magazines, non-partisan magazines, all seem to indicate that the PlayStation had a bit more going for it in terms of power. And the general feedback just seemed to indicate that, for the most part, the PlayStation branch was a bit more suited to 3D gaming than the Saturn. Now, I'm not a tech head, and I'm certainly not a fanboy. I like I like Sega. Like I say, had a Master System and a Mega Drive 32X, and I nearly went over a branch again. Okay. I'd have been useless in Vietnam. I'd have just walked straight into a punji stick pit or something like that, or ended up like that dude impaled on the wall in the film Green Berets, you know, Peterson. But yeah, well, there's a tangent for you. How do you get a John Wayne film from the 1960s, a John Wayne Vietnam film from the 1960s, into a chat about PlayStation? There's your challenge. There's the booby trap. Step over. But yeah. Wow, how the hell do I get back? That is not even a segue I can come up with to get myself back on track from that one. That is a real doozy. Anyway, let's not make half the video that. Yeah, it was that being torn. But I tell you what made me mind up. The PlayStations were selling like hotcakes. They were flying off the shelves and they were hard to get hold of. So I'd gone out with my dad just before Christmas, and my mind was set like so. If there's a PlayStation available, that'll be the one I get, because that's meant to be. If not, I'll get the Saturn, because that's what it would be meant to be. I went to the store where I'd seen both the Saturn and the PlayStation in their little demo pods. When I say demo pods, it wasn't something you could play, it was a video on like a 14-inch portable CRT television looping a video. That's what it was. You know, we're not talking high-tech stuff here. We're talking absolute basic level. Oh look, you need to rewind the video and press play again type stuff. So we went there, and they had a few Saturns, and they had one last PlayStation, and that was it. I was like, yep, that's the one. And so I got that, and it came with Doom and Doom 2, and it came with a game, I think it was Striker, oh god, was it 95? 96? Can't remember now. I think it was Striker 96, I think. Well, that doesn't really make sense year-wise. Anyway, now I'd had a game called Striker on the Amiga, which was like a 3D football / soccer game, and I used to quite like it. It was ropey as all hell, because again, like, those 16-bit machines weren't really designed to play this type of stuff. But yeah, it's just those two games I got initially, and I just got it on Christmas Day morning, started playing Doom, and the rest, as they say, is history. Bearing in mind I had played Doom on the 32X and it was just night and day. You know, it was like going from one extreme to the other. Lighting, sound, there were more levels. Of course, it had Doom 2 with it as well. You know, and interestingly enough, they never even marketed it as such. You know, on the cover, on the main cover, didn't even say Doom 2. just said Doom. So I didn't even know. I just thought it was just Doom 1, the original game. When I booted it up, I was like, Doom 2? And I thought, oh, it must be a demo. No, it wasn't, it was the full game. But yeah, absolutely loved it. And I thought, right, this is it. And over that Christmas period with money I got Wipeout, which is like a brilliant futuristic racing game, because that was one that caught my eye. Then I got a little game called Loaded, which was kind of a top-down isometric shooter. Brilliant soundtrack by Pop Will Eat itself. Great game. Brilliant game to play. I absolutely loved it. And then later on I got Ridge Racer. And that was it. I was just like, this is great. I was back hooked on gaming. You know, having had that period of time. Because everything was different. It was going forward in a new and original direction. It was entertaining. It was great looking, great sounding. You know, you'd gone from sort of chip tunes, whereby the music was being generated by a microchip on board the console's motherboard, to actually proper music, proper sound being streamed from the disc. And it was incredible. The advancements in technology was just remarkable. I sat down for hours playing that, just loved it. And I just was buying games for it all the time. Every time I'd save up, because I got more money in the job. I'd moved up a bit in the world. In the job, I'd gone from office junior to doing working with finance department, doing the bookkeeping. I got quite a bit of a pay rise. So I'd gone from having to scrimp and save to having a bit of spare cash at the end of the month. I'd got a new car, because the one I had a hole in the floor. And yeah, new car, PlayStation. Just loved playing games on there. You know, I'd go over there, but the likelihood is I'd end up treading in dog crap, because people just let their dogs run loose, and they're supposed to pick up after themselves, but sometimes they don't. So I'm just trying to think of ways with which to vary this walk a little bit. I'm mindful of the fact that I just keep walking on the same pathway. Let's see. Let's have a look, see if I can walk carefully over there. I need to get some like walking boots or shoes. I do have some Doc Martens, but I've had them for years. They might be a bit of a menace to get on. Let's see. Anyway, like, I'll try and keep the camera up and I'll look where I'm going, look where I'm treading. Oh, doggo. Hello, dog. What are you up to? Are you hiding from your owners? All right. I won't tell them where you are. But, yeah. sort of like years and years of playing on that console, loads of games, and it just seemed like so many great games were coming out for it all the time. And I do wonder, is that like, like rose tinted glasses? But no, I don't think it is, because Resident Evil, you had 3 mainline Resident Evil games. You got Final Doom that came out, which was essentially all of the Final Doom stuff. I think some were missing and some were trimmed down and edited again, but they really were pushing the PlayStation with that. Let's go this way. And he was brilliant. It's just such a brilliant collection. Doom, Final Doom, loved it. More of the brilliant Aubrey Hodges soundtrack that was on the original Doom. This grass is really wet. This was not a clever idea. This was not intelligent. Not without proper walking shoes. I think I've messed up here. This was not from the home of people that give you bright ideas. Note to self: don't go walking on wet grass. And of course the grass itself had been cut recently. Well done, Brainiac. Well done. Anyway, and like Tomb Raider come out as a fantastic game. Resident Evil games, as I say, brilliant games. There's just so many. And like you contrast that now, where they struggle to get one single franchise game out in a console's life cycle these days. As I said before, they need to address that. That's what's killing your console sales. It's a lack of games. An absolute lack of games. And that was one of the things the PlayStation and Sony did really well. They got a lot of games coming out on their system, and if they weren't exclusives, they positioned themselves into making you think they were an exclusive, or it was a lead format. Like Tomb Raider, people associate with the PlayStation. It's actually out on the Saturn as well. Yeah, but people don't think of that, unless you had a Saturn, of course, but your average person, they didn't think of it like that. And that was the real strength, like I say, that Sony had. They bought up a lot of software developing companies in the UK in particular to make games for the PlayStation. A lot of traditional game developers and publishers in the UK either signed exclusivity deals with Sony or were bought by them to make games for the PlayStation. Sadly, as has been the way in more recent years, many of them have been closed down or merged, which is sad, really. Which is very sad. but it's sort of increasingly what has happened. You're seeing that happen quite a lot now. But yeah, they were really good. Really good games that was coming out. There's like plenty of them as well. It's like numerous amounts of these games coming out, like month in, month out. God, at some points it was like week in and week out. There's a whole load of them, whole wide range of these awesome titles. You don't really get that now, which is a shame. Yeah. But yeah, I'd say that's probably why he was my favourite. When something comes back or helps bring back an interest, reinvigorates it, you know, it's nice. And that, like I say, the important thing to stress is that the other stuff that I had, the Master System, the Mega Drive, my C64, I don't count my Amiga and C64 as games consoles. They were computers, you know. They were computers that played games like PC. And that was more how I focus on them. If you're talking games consoles, I mean stuff that did nothing but play games. And I did enjoy the other stuff that I had. I loved it. But PlayStation just opened up a new world of gaming that, you know, people just didn't think was possible back then. You know, a lot of people didn't think you would get that kind of games at home, that they would only be ever found in the arcade. And you know, this little box of tricks, and I think it was £300 when it come out in the UK. £300. And the games were like 30 to £40, I think. Yeah. No DLC, no patches, no season passes, no crap. You know, games come out, they worked. Yeah, obviously some had some glitches and bugs in, but they worked. You didn't need a 50 gigabyte download on day one just to get the sodding thing working. There was none of that. It was truly plug and play. Where are them days gone now? They're gone forever. And I don't think they'll ever come back. I think going forward, video games or consoles will gradually morph into little PC boxes, even more so than what they have done already, which is sad. And it's weird because your benchmark's right there, people. PlayStation, then the PlayStation 2. They were benchmark consoles, they were awesome, they were great, they were hugely successful. Their games that came out on them are legendary. Even today, people talk about these consoles reverentially, and their games are stuff of legend. And all those lessons have been lost, I guess. Maybe it'll come full circle. I hope it does. But yeah, I loved it. Still do. Still do. The only downside was the PlayStation Mini that they released, I thought was a bit weak sauce that Sony put out there. I didn't really think much to a lot of the games they put on there, and they missed a lot of the great stuff off there that would have actually made me buy one. But hey ho. But yeah, the original PlayStation, personally my favourite console. That'll be one, and as a stress, not a computer, console. Favourite computers, that's an entirely different conversation that's dominated by one. That's the Commodore 64, but that's for another video. So, I think I'll call it there as I walk past that electric power station or relay station or whatever the hell it is. Get myself all irradiated for fun. I go home now and clean all grass clippings off my bloody trainers. Wonderful. And don't think there'll be a video tomorrow. I'll stick one of my videos that I've done for Doom 3 playthrough. I'll stick that up on there. Only because I'm at the hospital. And all things being equal, I'll be back here on Friday. And this time I'll think about something else to talk about before I step outside the door. Maybe it's handy. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you all later.